I wanted a foot in the door. That's all it was. And really, I've done so much more than my younger self would have ever imagined I would have done.
Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Dance Chat UK, the podcast where we delve into the vibrant world of professional dance. My name is Corina and I'm your host, and this week I have Alice Jones in the studio. Alice is an absolutely stunning professional dancer who specializes in ballet and contemporary. Me and Alice, we get into the do's and the don'ts, the beauty and the struggles of life as a freelance dancer. Alice's passion for dance shines through in everything she does and everything she says, so get ready to get inspired and enjoy your front row seat to another episode of Dance Chat UK. Hello dance friends and welcome Alice to the podcast.
Hi.
Hi, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm very excited. I'm excited you're doing this.
Yeah, me too. The last time I seen you was in the Maldives where we both worked.
Eventful.
Yeah, it was an eventful time for sure.
Yeah.
What have you been up to since?
Well, since I got over that cold, do you remember I had that horrible cold because it thunderstormed, so it's in my chest. Yeah. I've gone on to get another one. Yeah. So here we are.
How's you doing?
A very husky voice for today's podcast.
Mm-hmm. Very sexy.
Yeah, let's go with that, sexy husky. So I have been traveling a lot, actually. I think Maldives marked the beginning of a series of traveling for like a couple of months with different contracts. Nice. So I was working with Prague Festival Ballet, touring Swan Lake. Beautiful. Through Germany, Switzerland. That was a crazy 2 months almost, month and a half. And then I came back to the UK. I actually had another Maldives trip that was sunnier. Wow. I had one in February.
I mean, right? It couldn't have been any less sunny.
Couldn't have been any less. That was wild, absolute tropical storms. So I went back to the Maldives, got some sun that time.
Nice.
Came back, and then I had another Swan Lake with the Brecon Festival Ballet, actually a double bill. They also had a Welsh ballet piece I debuted in as soloist, which was really fun, and that was over Easter. And then I also was working in Iceland with the National Ballet School of Iceland, and then finally I landed back in London, and I've been back since just after sort of the Easter holidays.
A lot of traveling.
Yeah, honestly, mate, like one to the next.
Is it tiring or do you love it? Or what's your traveling experience?
Oh God, it's both, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's both. Duality in all of it, I think. Yeah, like I think when you know you've got that kind of slog coming up one to the next, you prepare for it. So I was prepared to be quite nomadic for 3 months.
Yeah. Did you like rent out your room here? Or,
exactly. Well, and it kind of worked for me because I was moving. So I literally didn't have an address during those 3 months. So I just stayed nomadic and moved into my new place when I came back.
Yeah.
And I'd also just bought my house back in Norfolk where my mum is.
Oh, wow.
And so I was also getting that renovated and now tenanted. It's been...
That's a
mental,
big
Karina.
achievement to have to buy your own property as a freelance dancer.
Yeah, it was. Thank you. Yeah,
congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a big step. Super stressful. Don't do it. That's a joke. That's a joke.
Don't get a mortgage.
Don't do it. No. Definitely do it. In fact, definitely do it. And don't let them say you can't do it because you're a freelancer, because you can. Mm-hmm. So yes, that was all going on. It was quite a weird moment to not have somewhere to live. Yet, which I'd planned, right? Wasn't just out on the streets, but not have somewhere to live, but actually own a property.
Yeah.
But you're sorting that out for tenants. It was just quite a funny moment to be looking for a room in London, but have a 3-bed house somewhere else, which was just not convenient for me to live in because, it was an investment, but also it's too far out of everything that's happening in our work.
Is London your base?
London's my base. Yeah, absolutely. Has been since I was 17.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like you need to be in London to be connected, to be where things are happening?
Yes. Yeah. At the moment.
Yeah.
At the moment. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, I won't always feel that, but I also do love it. I love London. I like the city buzz.
Yeah.
I live quite central and I like being part of it. The heartbeat of it, I think. I enjoy it, actually.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you did Swan Lake, so you're
Yes.
mainly a ballerina, is that right
Exactly.
to say?
Oh, she was in ballet mode.
Yeah.
She was in ballet mode. Exactly. For 2 separate contracts, and it was wonderful. It was really good. I really enjoyed it.
Where did you train?
So I trained at my mother's dance school in Norfolk, the Oakley School of Dancing.
Cute.
Yep, very. Mum was a dancer, dad was a musician.
Oh,
I was
wow.
doomed.
Proper like artistic family.
Yeah, absolutely. Although both went on to marry sort of teachers. And I was there, I suppose, love child. But yeah, I trained with my mum, and then she and I thought it was a really good idea for me to go and do my bachelor's at the Royal Academy of Dance, the 3-year course, where I could get my
Your teaching degree. Okay.
degree.
Yeah.
And that was mostly because we weren't sure how the landscape would look for me as a performer. And if I didn't have any success, I'd have this passport already to work at her school and to teach, and the familiarity, it was safe.
Yeah. But it makes sense.
However, back from when Mum had done the diploma in, I think, the 90s or 80s, it was still considered somewhere you could go pass through while you were training. When I was there, and it's now a degree, I think the focus had shifted much more academically. So my desire to dance meant that I had to reach out for a lot of extra training.
Okay.
And I did that privately.
Yeah.
We couldn't afford the 1-year booster programs with Rhombare, Studio Centre, Central, any of their 3rd-year join along programs. So I remember when Mum said, you have to do it the hard way. You're going to have to work, and you're going to have to pay for your private tuition, and you're going to have to train. You know, and if you really want it, that's going to have to be your journey.
Yeah.
So I found a couple fantastic teachers, one in particular, Chilean Heredria, ex-Cuban National Ballet and English National Ballet. And she worked with me for a year before I got an apprenticeship in with a small ballet company, the London Ballet Company.
Yeah.
And I started working with them. So that was my route. And while I had the Royal Academy of Dance as my training, it isn't considered a vocational performer's training. So I had, therefore, quite an unconventional.
Yeah. But I find sometimes if you go outside your degree course and you're already out in the freelance, like in the world of professional dance, and you meet so many different people taking freelance classes, I find sometimes then the transition into the professional world is almost easier, almost smoother.
Absolutely.
Was that your experience?
Smoother? What I would say is my not straight direction path, but this kind of more difficult, less conventional route did give me a lot of grit, perseverance at a really formative part of my career.
Yeah.
And as you say, that kind of already having to be out freelancing, already being out, having to try and, I mean, I was teaching from, well, really helping at Mum's school, and then I was teaching all the way through my degree, a bit waitressing, but mostly teaching. I've been doing it the entire time alongside. So it's a whole other career for me. So beginning that and beginning a name in that and experience in that as well, beginning to have those separate jam jars start to build up has definitely been the backbone of my career, I'd say.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
I just said because I did a degree in contemporary dance, and I wanted to do more than just contemporary. So I already took loads of other classes, and that kind of opened the doors for me. Because when you hang around Pineapple and Dance Works and all these big studios,
networking.
you are going to meet people. Isn't it?
Yeah.
So it looks like you're living fully the freelance dancer life. Is that something you always wanted, or was the goal more to be like full-time in a ballet company?
I think at the beginning, for me, it all seemed so much more less likely I'd have the opportunity to become a professional dancer.
Yeah.
It felt so impossible that just honestly anything, any foot through the door was important to me. But the dream, I think, was to be in a company full time. I didn't like the idea that I would still have to teach.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that it wasn't a case of having to teach. Actually, it's a very important side of my career and something I really love. So something I'd be really sad if I didn't have in my career, in fact, in the end. But at that early point, I was just desperate for a contract, whatever time, whatever length, with whoever I wanted a foot in the door. That's all it was. And really, I've done so much more than my younger self would have ever imagined I would have done. And I am really proud of that, because I think as artists, it's really important to look back and acknowledge where you've come.
Yeah.
And she, as we're talking about that formative time, I remember how absolutely impossible it seemed. And also just having that bachelor's, that specific pedagogical degree, it was actually a hindrance for me in auditions. So it felt so, as in getting through the door with that qualification was more difficult than if you'd graduated from a particular conservatoire with a performance degree. So I remember how I really just thought it would never happen. So I am, super grateful for my journey.
What gave you that foot through the door? Was it the London Ballet Company?
No. At each step of the way, from my first private tutor that took me under her wing, that I felt like she'd given me a key. And then my first sort of I worked with a few random artists on all kinds of MA and degree projects, as well as then my apprenticeship with TLBC. And then I was then promoted with them into the company. So all of those stepping stones, they were giving me this sort of pass to feel validated as a performer, I think. And then my first paycheck. But it all came with just realizing slowly it was possible. And then I think when I had my eyes awake to that, I've never thought anything's impossible since, I think.
Yeah.
Like anything I want to turn my hand to, not anything, right? Maybe not anything. I'm not going to become a salsa queen overnight, okay? Like yourself.
You never know.
But you never know. But
I'll train you.
yeah, exactly. There you go. See, it's all a pathway. It's all possible. But it's a bit of both, isn't it? It's those moments you have, but also that it's self-referencing, that recognition of, oh shit,
believing it yourself.
Exactly. And that's the gold dust, I think.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
They always say, like, show up the way you want to be perceived.
Yeah.
So if you believe that you're a performer and you're a ballet dancer, then...
Yeah, well, because I don't know about you, but I think I romanticize my life a lot. But what I mean by that is, as a child, I think I was always like trying on different versions of who's Alice today. My mum would say I was an actress first, I think, because it was all about imagination and playing and storytelling. So I think part of what we do is, okay, you're turning up to a casting and you've got to be this particular role. You adopt that, don't you? You take on that energy, you style yourself. And I think that can be, not saying we're all walking around living like some, fantasy world, but you can adapt and have those elements of yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, I think living that, like having confidence to do that and go, no, it's cool. I can have all these hats.
Yeah, I guess if you are in the studio and you have probably your teaching persona, which is probably a bit different than Alice who comes in and is in Swan Lake. And
definitely.
Yeah, or Alice who goes to the Moldy.
Yeah, definitely.
Doing other dance styles. You present yourself in the appropriate way, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What has your favorite job been so far, if you had to pick one or two, or an aspect of different jobs?
I find it a really difficult question what my highlight would be highlights are, because there've been so many. So maybe it's easier for me to reference recent work and talk about what I've enjoyed, which is that I was dancing recently in Swan Lake, both as core and also soloist. And then I was also dancing in a work that was created new on the cast. So being part of this new work as a soloist was really, really special. And you were trying to like repeat this handed down precious artwork in Swan Lake. And I mean, that's the beauty of it though.
Yeah.
You're there, and there's something so special about being handed down, you know, from whoever's directing it and whoever's giving you their knowledge being passed down, all this beautiful wisdom and insight into these roles and these just really finite corrections. I had a correction on my little finger in the swan arms because my little finger was curly and I had to straighten it. And how each company wants a slightly different, you know, from the Russian style to the European style.
Yeah, and then also looking cohesive, I guess, as a company, as the corps de ballet.
Exactly. And within that, what I love about core, or dancing in soloist work, but big ensemble groups, is that teamwork. You are so together, and you are, you know, army ballet. Really, it's like you're militant about your lines, your formations, you are one breath. There's a moment in Swan Lake Act 2 where we all lift up together and breathe and come down to the kneel.
Yeah.
And you know when you've got your peripheral vision and you're feeling everyone around you, but you really just, by, you know, a couple shows in, you've got that breath all together, that feeling of togetherness is actually really amazing.
And I feel like ballet is so unique in that, as in every ballerina has gone through the same training from the first plie to the last, like, you know, grand allegro. Every ballerina has very, very similar training. And I think that's so unique to ballet, because in all the other dance styles, even if you have a bunch of amazing commercial dancers, they didn't go through the same training. Not everybody, you know, some come from a ballet background, some come from like a
it's more hybrid.
Whatever. And I think that's so unique to ballet, that every little detail is just trained exactly the same and looks exactly the same.
And I think that's why some people refer to it as a mother style. It's not the mother style of all dance styles at all. That's totally incorrect. But it is for many, and it's because of its deep-rooted traditionalism.
Yeah.
But there is something so beautiful to that. And, you know, dancing to, you know, Tchaikovsky's score with Petipa's intention, and, you know, knowing we're repeating. In fact, when I did Swan Lake with Brecon Festival, the director, Katie Sinjoy, she was showing us videos from London City Ballet, I believe in the 80s. And we were repeating, you know, their version.
Wow, yeah.
And it was nice for me to do two contracts side by side where there's subtle differences. Each company wanted us, but yet the intention and many of the moves are still the same. And to think that's been around since, you know, late 1800s is amazing, actually.
Yeah.
And so
definitely.
I both adored that experience. I'll never not love the classical ballet. It is so special to so many of us, and it's such a painful, beautiful thing to do. I can't say it without the
painful. Yeah.
Definitely painful. And then separately, dancing something new as a soloist where I can express.
Yes.
Because I think that's my favourite thing to do as an artist. As I say, I think I'm sort of an actress before I was ever a dancer. As a child, I was just a performer.
Yeah.
So expressing is inherent to me and important. And again, I'm doing it through someone else's vessel when I'm telling their story. But I had a small part in a ballet, and it was a very lovely role. And she's a sort of community figure, and then she manages to sort of win over the man that she's loved for a very long time, and they have a family. And there's this just lovely pas de deux moment, but there's so much emotion in it. And that was so freeing for me in juxtaposition to the regiment of the Swan Lake
Yeah.
corps de ballet. It was so freeing for me to express. And so maybe, yeah, those are some nice things to touch on in terms of highlights of what I enjoy in my career is the variety of some of these contracts
Which
give
you
me
get
so much.
as a freelance dancer.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much if you were in a company, you wouldn't get that variety. And then the change with teaching as well and stuff.
Definitely.
Yeah.
For me, variety is the spice of life.
Yeah.
I think you're similar.
Yeah, definitely. No, it is true. Like if I'm in a contract which is, I don't know, jazzy, then I miss like the expressiveness and deepness of contemporary dance.
Yeah,
But then if I do too much of that, I'm like, I just want to do something fun.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm very, very much like that.
I admire those that are full-time in, you know, one area in the industry that's just, I mean, not to say that you or I are so spread out across it, but, you know, we've still got our niches, but I do find I couldn't be one track. I have, and maybe that's just the merit of the way I've trained, but I really love having those different, knowing that I'll go from one thing to another month to month is so special.
Do you do quite a lot of contemporary dance then as well?
Yeah, so my mum was maybe a tiny bit before her time. She herself had danced as a contemporary dancer, so her ballet school was ballet and contemporary as early as the 90s, which I feel like that's the case now. All the top ballet schools offer contemporary training, but I don't know if that was quite so happening then. So for me, I grew up with the both side by side, and therefore I relate as a contemporary dancer and a ballet dancer, and my favourite is somewhere in the middle of that.
Yeah.
You know, that's my preferred style, and what I also prefer making and creating in myself is contemporary ballet. But I have danced both as separately as a contemporary dancer and a classical dancer, yes. But it does take retraining my body per contract. If I've got something coming up that's much more contemporary, I have to get back familiar with the floor again, because when you've just been doing ballet, you feel positively allergic to the floor, and you have to find your flow with it again. So I have to go back to class and I have to find that. And when I've got a very strictly classical contract coming up, I have to have the boots on all the time, by which I mean the point shoes.
I did want to ask you about that. Obviously, as a freelance dancer, you go from contract to contract, and each one might be a little slightly different in terms of physical demand. How do you make sure you're ready for your next job or stay ready maybe during a downtime?
I want to say that I've got this amazing routine and I'm so regimented with all of it, but that's just bollocks. I'm sorry, I just swore on your podcast. Okay. I'm sorry for saying bollocks. Sorry for saying it again. I definitely just focus on what I've got coming up, and prepare as necessary. I mean, I think I do have a conditioning for my body. I do a lot of Pilates for my body as a base. That keeps me super, super strong and aligned, I feel. And then I will take the class in the style that's coming up more so. And that's my preparation for it, really. So it's not, these aren't major big shifts, but they're just shifting gears enough. And there'll be certain things I'll focus on more if I have a more contemporary contract coming up compared to classical, just in terms of the way I condition my body. But it can be a challenge because I remember a few years ago, I had a series of contemporary work, and then I had to shift into ballet, and my feet suffered because I hadn't had my shoes on properly for a couple of months, you know. And really, for any full-time ballet dancer, that's just wouldn't be a thing. Yeah, it's not all straightforward. It's not all easy. And then you're not necessarily coming in with your best foot forward, let's say, necessarily. But you can rely, literally. You can rely on experience and adaptability. And also, I find the case, I don't know about you, but with a lot of shorter freelance contracts, there's a bit more, well, you're expected to self-manage more, and you can also communicate more, I find, with the directors a little bit more about where you're at, because they don't expect that you've just been full-time with them in their style, or conditioning yourself exactly for that. I think communication's key, actually, I haven't been wearing my point shoes for a while.
Yeah.
So give me a second, and, you might find the director. I've had many times where choreographers have been prepared to also adapt with me a little bit and sort of wean you in, break you into their style during the contract. Although I think that also takes courage, doesn't it? Because I can think of the early point in my career and, just keeping stump and like being prepared for that choreographer to assume I'd been doing tumbling and floor work for the last month when actually I hadn't. And then my back and body was bruised, I think, it definitely takes a bit of wisdom and self-awareness, I think, which comes with experience.
I think especially coming from ballet training, being told to be, silent during class, so disciplined, you don't have a voice, to develop that voice as a professional dancer, to be like, no, I'm professional, I'm doing this job. And you talk to the choreographer sort of eye to eye. To learn that, I think it's super important.
Absolutely. Depends what the stakes are. It's so much juggling. Can I say something? Can I not say something? But I think having that feeling that you can have that power. Well, number one, you're in the best job if you feel like there's a safe space for you to communicate with your director, your choreographer, whoever.
And I think being in a safe space where you can communicate, that's health and safety for you as a dancer. To be able to say, hey, I've just been on this one leg tour, I haven't been on the floor for this long. That protects you as a dancer. And the choreographer is going to want you to last as well.
Right.
Last the
It's
contract.
in their interest.
They don't want you to get injured on the first day. No. You'll train your body back up to be able to do that sort of movement, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think I have to say I've probably experienced more safe space environments in the contemporary or the ballet contemporary community than I have in the classical community. I think
safe space as in you felt like you had a voice and
exactly.
You could speak.
Exactly. Yeah. Just sort of ruminating on that now as we talk about it. I can see a collection of examples of where I felt really supported and able to have that voice.
I think as freelancers, we are on the go by ourselves a lot, and sometimes we work with people not for very long and you don't get close enough to them.
Yeah.
Do you ever get lonely in that environment?
Absolutely. I think it's a real, you got to be self-motivated, self-validating, self-promoting, selfish, self-aware, self-absorbed. That's a joke. Not really, though. Oh my God, self-discipline, self. The freelance world is actually, while it might be appealing to everyone or to people, it's not for everyone. Definitely not for everyone. If you're someone that needs that consistency of a group of colleagues that you would find in a full-time company, where your position is never assured, I'm sure, but like you could have definitely at least 6 months, a year contract with the same people. If you need that, then the freelance community is not for you because it can be a really lonely game. And I have found that difficult at times, but you identify with so many people. Like I will identify with you on that so well that you have people that get you. Like we all get each other.
Yeah.
It's like that the knowing. And I think the freelance community are made up of really lovely people that get on with it.
Yeah.
And have usually had to have had that alternative, non-conventional path one way or another along their journey to be freelancing, to have as many jam jars to keep them going, and we, I think, are kind of bonded in that same struggle. So in a way you're lonely, you're isolated, but you're also like, you have an incredible instant team of people that totally get you at your fingertips. Should you need it, should you have that breakdown at Pineapple that one time, you have that group of people that just get you.
Yeah.
And that will swoop in. So it's a bit of both, isn't it, I think?
Yeah, it can be an absolutely wonderful thing. If you go
Yeah.
on a shorter contract with a group of people you've thrown together, you don't know each other, but then you might bond so much, as you said, because you have this base understanding of each other's
Yeah,
life.
absolutely.
And you exchange and you can give each other advice.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Yeah.
it's so valuable as well.
So valuable. Yeah. And kind of specific. And that's a lovely thing. I think we've, all kind of got a similar struggle and hustle and respect for each other. Because I think that's probably the best thing about the freelance community is I think you work well in the freelance community if you're not a dickhead. And if
you do well in life, I would
you do,
say.
oh, yeah, sorry, yeah.
If
yeah.
you're not a
General
dickhead.
life, general life. General life, don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Sorry for saying dick. I think general life, well, obviously, but I think you especially do well in our freelance community as performers.
I know what you mean, obviously, yeah.
If you're kind, you're gonna rub each other's backs and you're gonna get on with it and you're gonna take a situation that's not exactly ideal and make it work. We are the make it work people.
About a specific situation we've been in.
Are you? Yes, yeah. I can think of at least 3, Karina.
Yeah.
But yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Where it's you're in that moment. Because I think so much on your shoulders as freelancers, all that self-managing, you have to be able to be good at perspectivizing, and the world's either going to be glass half full or glass half empty. And, I think it's that energy. It's the energy that you give to others in a situation and to yourself. And I think that's the best thing about the freelance community. You can tell when someone's not going to work in the freelance community because they maybe, and that's not a bad thing, but they maybe need a little bit more cushioning or support system to operate at their best.
Yes.
When someone can self-manage that, it's a fucking superpower, honestly.
Yeah.
And
you are fantastic at that. In this last contract that we were in together, you came in slightly later. I had already been there like 2 weeks or something.
Yeah.
A while. It felt like forever.
Your face right now.
But yeah, you came in and you just stayed. You brought such a positive, calm energy. We're like, okay, well, let's just, everybody, let's just deal with this. This is what we've got. Let's make the best out of it and deliver what we can. It doesn't mean that just because we don't get what we need to do our best, we'll still do our best. Sort of that, you brought such a good energy. And I feel like that comes with experience as well, to not panic, to not get too like upset or wrapped in with things. Even if it's not right and it's not going well, you can still make the experience good for yourself with a good attitude, I think. Yeah.
Thank you. That's very kind.
Yeah, no, it's true.
I appreciate it very much.
True story.
I think with my teaching, it's helped me a lot as well, that I've had the opportunity to be managing lots of groups of first young children and then older and then eventually adults and things, and now more professional. So, and it's something I realise I enjoy doing. And that kind of, amalgamated with your own, you've got some options here. This can either be like a shit show, or we can try and turn it on its head and stay calm. I think really I can, it's part of it for me, and I'm glad if that has relayed positively, because I do think it's a huge cornerstone of the way I work and the way freelancers can work successfully, because you'll be remembered for how you manage situations, and the freelance world is constantly putting out mini bonfires, really.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not just about your dance skills, it's very much the skills, like how do you handle those situations.
Yeah. How much is it even about your dance skills, really? It's like,
I don't know.
That's a joke. You've still got to be excellent, obviously, but no, it's just, it is so much about the other side that it isn't only about the dance. That's the thing. It's so much about your management, and God, I'm still not good on emails though. I'm still not amazing at my admin. That's my area I really need to that's going to be next year's resolution.
I mean, there's so many aspects to freelance life, as
Yeah.
you just said, like the
Yeah.
admin and
Yeah.
the training and the jobs and
Yeah. God.
the applying for
Yeah.
new jobs. How do you usually get jobs?
I have a cycle where I go through a phase where there'll be a bit of a push out of application for things. And then I feel some energy gets returned my way. And at this point in my career, fortunately have my name put forward for things.
Yeah.
And contacts, or you'd be right for this, or, So there's now I'd say that's a good chunk of my work, the amount that's kind of like repeating and recycling contacts that come back round.
People contact you
Exactly.
if you're available.
Yeah. Which is such an honor. It's never not a cool feeling. And then I have an amount that is pushing myself out there, and I try and think about, something I'd like to see myself doing. And I don't push it too much. I just don't pressure it too much. I try to think about it first. Okay, that aligns with me. Right, let's get an ear to the ground. If I've got contacts in that area, who can I ask? And obviously, if we all see that big cattle call come up, we might all go for it. There'll always be the odd casting that everybody's gone for because, it's either vague enough or specific enough. And then you see everyone there, So there's that as well,
Yeah.
a mix.
But I feel you in the sense of you receive work, you receive availability checks and stuff, and then at some point you get so comfortable with that work that you feel like, okay, I'm ready for the next step, and then you have to push yourself a little bit out there and apply for things, and then you get to that next level, and then you might, feel comfortable on that level for a little while, and then that's how I feel.
And it's I read about this, the competence cycle. How does the competence cycle go? Oh God, I shouldn't have brought this up now. I'm going to forget it and sound really incompetent. So you are unconsciously incompetent. So that's you not being aware of the fact that you're lacking some skill set, let's say. Then you become aware of it. You're consciously incompetent. And then you become unconsciously competent as you have started working towards those skills and they are beginning to come in and you're not yet actually self-validating, and then you become consciously competent. And it's this constant cycle where, your skills, if you keep that cycle going, you're on a constant upward spiraling trajectory, I guess. Sorry, that was a bit...
No, that was very deep. That was good. Helpful.
Okay, great.
With a lot of different dancers on a lot of different contracts, what can you see in the dance world that you're a bit like, that's an issue, could be managed better, dancers struggle with X, Y, Z?
Oh, God. Yeah. Big question. There are many things, but maybe something we've been talking about in terms of the freelance community is I do think there's a massive lack of education on the freelance side of the industry and how to get into it and how to behave in it. And I think let's go with just sort of conservatoires here, let's say specifically ballet or contemporary vocational schools, just seem to lack this information for their graduates. It's like you either get into a ballet company or you've died. That's the only option. You're either dancing with, Hofesh, or you that's it.
Yeah.
You're out.
You don't have a career.
Or you're done, mate. And it's such a shame because there is obviously so much variation of work, and some of us would arguably choose this side of the industry. It's not a second option. It's actually for many an option, a viable one. But there's no education for the sort of upcoming generations of dancers in how to apply and approach it. And then where that becomes an issue and directly impacts me is that I'm out there sometimes working with graduates in the freelance community that don't really know the etiquette in a way. And I have experienced some younger performers. Obviously, you want to ask, how can I get in touch with? Could you put me in? But here's the thing. You can't climb people like a ladder. Because the freelance industry, you know, I don't know, I've got a snakes and ladders image now in my head. You will just go down the snake, down to the bottom, and your name will get blacklisted for it. And it's really important to know how you can manage networking, and it's a skill in itself, and how to approach people about opportunities and contacts instead of going over the head of people. And because I'm a real sharer with work. If I've got something I either can't do or something I think is better suited to someone else, I actively pass it on.
Yeah.
I know people will vouch for me on that. I will actively pass on work wherever I can, because I think we all need to support each other. But I think there's this slightly toxic side. I mean, there always is in any industry. That's kind of a confused group of graduating dancers and then on that don't know how to approach
100%.
working in the freelance community. So I think the schools are failing them without giving them the proper advice, bringing in not just the one track performer that's gone through, you know, the exact right ballet school and the exact right ballet company, and that's all they've done. That is so unrealistic for so many performers. They need to know how the rest of it goes. And I think we can cultivate such a good community. And I want to use that word community because it is a community. If the schools would only help prepare that.
Yeah, because otherwise you go out there and you might say something on a job to somebody that really puts them off, and then you never work with the company again just because of that one mistake, and you might not even be aware exactly what you've said. And what did you not do right, you know? And I mean, I've made mistakes. I'm sure you've made mistakes at the beginning of my career, because as you said, I wasn't prepared, because I went to a contemporary dance college. So we were prepared to join a contemporary dance company or become choreographers. That was also a big side of my particular degree. But I think for example, in the commercial dance industry, it's much more targeted towards you're going to become a freelance dancer. Whereas, as you rightly said, contemporary dance and ballet, it's a lot more company focused.
Sure.
And for me, I did actually a internship with a dance company. They're full time there in a company, and that made me realize this is not for me. Being with the same 12 people, with the same ballet teacher, with the same pianist, playing the same music every day, I was like, after 2 weeks, I became crazy. Do you know what I mean? So I was like, this is not for me. I need to be freelance. But yeah, as you said, in the early days of my career, I definitely made massive mistakes. Hence why I feel passionate about sharing information, doing this podcast.
Absolutely.
But so what would you say are certain things you shouldn't do?
There is an etiquette to it. There's an etiquette to it. There's an etiquette to how you approach people for their work and their contacts, because it's our most valuable asset, isn't it? In a way, our networking community as freelancers is hugely influential in the way we work. And it's just a respect. It's just a way. That's all it is. And I don't know if I can even explain it, but
I think your best chance of getting work again through these people on that job is just doing a good job.
Always.
And being a lovely person. And then they are going to think about you for the next job.
Yes.
I think badgering someone so how do you like, you know, who do you work with and how did you get this job and who's your agent and can you give me the contacts?
The amount of times I've had messages onto my Instagram that actually aren't even how are you? They're just, that looks cool, or how did you get that? Almost it's almost a critical question. I mean, I hate to be insecure here, but it's almost a kind of like, how did you do it? Because I can do it. It's you can feel people's intention. I mean, as a freelancer, as another skill you need is that sort of like really personability and like understanding and body language and all these things we have, and performers often do. But you can feel someone's intention when they could give a crap whether or not you're all right and how your mum is. They just want to know that contact. And it's very surface, and it doesn't sustain them.
No.
As I say, it's a quick ladder up and a snake down.
And
it doesn't
also,
do anything that creates a lasting, sustainable contact. Yeah. You don't have to become someone's best friend, but, it's off-putting.
It's off-putting. For me, if somebody is so interested in how I get jobs or very knowing that I choreograph and,
Yeah.
so desperate to get work, it's not somebody I want to work with. It's so off-putting that I go the other way, that I don't ask them if I have a job, you know?
And you and I are now at a sort of point in our career, I would say, from our conversations we've had where we're now in a place where we employ people. And it is something, this is why I feel passionate about it, and passionate that the schools do something, because many of these dancers are super gifted and talented, but they're cutting off their nose to spite their face in their approach. Let's not get rid of the good old email, people. Email has a level of respect. I mean, I was talking about my lack of admin ability, but I think you can reach out to people in a more formal way that is, not, I saw on your Instagram story you were doing this thing, so hello, yours sincerely, how can I get involved? But you can create a networking, do you know what I'm trying to say? You can create a more sincere approach. It's okay to want to get that contact. It's okay to also want to get the foot in the room. And also, if you don't ask, you don't get. It's okay to want to ask, but it's just all in the approach and the tact. And I think knowing and understanding that contacts are so much the valuable asset of a freelancer. Therefore, don't ever just expect someone to give them out to you.
Yeah.
For nothing. Don't expect that.
Yeah.
Sometimes, for me, it's been a mutual exchange. I've had a situation recently where a dancer provided me with some contacts for an upcoming contract, and I provided her with some foot in through a door somewhere else, and that's a very natural mutual exchange. Sometimes it's like that. Sometimes you are asking a more superior or more experienced person for their expertise, but you can ask them it in a really tactful way, and without expectation. And if you set that grounding, I think you get so much more from that person, or in my experience. And I've asked so many people for their wisdom, but it's the approach and how you honor that with going to see their work. May I take you for a coffee? Is it possible for me to ask you about this? Because I'm looking at this and this and this, not I need, please give me. And I think that's...
Or just straight up, who's your agent?
Or straight up, yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I also feel like it's that competition thinking.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, you can smell desperation from far, and that's never good. But also I have learned a lot that if I tell my friends about an upcoming audition, that doesn't mean that they're going to get the job over me. Like, either I'm right for the job and they're not, or they're right for the job and I'm not, and then I help the friend get a job, and then they will think about me in the future. Not that calculated, but just be a nice person, share.
Absolutely.
You can share what you know and help people, and then that will come back, in a good way.
So much so. And it's cyclical.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Don't try to just hold on to your information and not show anybody your cards.
That's it.
Definitely we can share, we can exchange, but do it in a nice, respectful way, and not out of desperation. Just have a conversation with people. Tell them what you're struggling with, or what what your ambitions are, or what you're really good at. I think just telling people all the things you're doing as well, obviously again in a natural sort of way, not like, oh, I can do this and that.
Here is my CV and my skill set.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But just sort of in natural conversation, be nice to people, get deep, get personal, and then they'll think about you for the next thing.
I think what you're saying is so right. That sort of just being your most authentic self, isn't it? Being prepared to put yourself out there in a genuine way. And what we mean by that, because people often say, put yourself out there, what does that mean? Is exactly what you've just said, is talking about what your interests are, what your ambitions are at the minute, what you're doing, without bullet pointing and targeting, but, you know, carrying your intention forward in front of you, you know, your own sandwich board, as it were, but like in a genuine way. And because you shouldn't be afraid to talk about what your strengths are and what you do. It's a great thing. You know, I mean, Daryl and I met in the car not very long ago, and we did a quick kind of your natural rundown of what you both do.
Yeah.
And it's because now I have in mind what Daryl does.
Daryl is our producer.
Big up Daryl.
Yay.
And I think that's a really like natural and like slightly more, I'll say mature way that we exchanged that natural freelance kind of, you know, what do you do? And there's nothing showy about it. It's just you're putting your authentic self forward. You're not afraid to. You're able to rub each other's backs and say, oh, that could be great for you. You're not diminished by someone else's wants and ambitions. It's hard, but you know, you got to listen and go, wow, Karina wants to do that. Doesn't make what I want to do less. It's that's the energy we have to cultivate. And if we can cultivate that at the school level, then wow, we can put so many more authentic artists forward, just going to be living their best life. We're all going to be props in each other.
Yeah.
And the
Helping
world's
each other
going to
get work.
explode with art.
Great.
And we're going to change the way everyone thinks.
So Alice, these days you work a lot as a choreographer, right?
Yes. Yeah.
What sort of work have you been doing?
Well, you're very generous in your openings. Like, not a lot, I would say. I'm beginning to. You're definitely several paces ahead.
Somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly that. I have been always also interested in choreographing. It's part of my creative practice, and it's something I haven't pushed, but something I've really wanted to grow, and I've just sort of had the seed and I've been watering it slowly. And for me, I think it's something that might surpass my own dance practice at some point, whenever I would be ready. So I've been really fortunate to work with a lot of sort of mid-size companies on a lot of opera ballet work.
Nice.
And that's been a really beautiful avenue for me into the world of choreographing, because some of these companies have come round and said, would you like the opportunity to create a work? And I have now choreographed a few small scale operas, and more recently a larger project where I co-choreographed a revival of the opera Zaubernacht by Kurt Weill for company Atelier al Monaco, and it was a really beautiful project, and we worked with refugees, and it was a lot looking at displaced people, which I won't go into much further depth than now, because I could talk for hours about it, 'cause it was such a great experience for me. And I am just really enjoying that side of my tree branch beginning to happen and grow. And I've had the privilege to also movement direct a little, some music videos, and also work on film as a choreographer. So I'm just cultivating that garden, that tree branch, as it were.
Choreography, I think it's not something that you can just decide, okay, from yesterday to today, I'm going to be a choreographer now. It's something that, you kind of have to wait for the right opportunity, and just,
Yeah, it's important, isn't it?
You can push it a little bit, but not. It's not going to happen from one day to the next. And you said you worked as a dancer, as a performer in operas, and then they asked,
That's right.
Why do you feel like they asked you specifically?
Well, I reflected on this recently because there's a couple of times where I think I didn't express that I wanted to choreograph. So it was something, I suppose, sometimes when you work as a dancer, as you know, you work with a choreographer, you work collaboratively a little bit with them. So, and maybe within that, I was able to show some skill set that I had where my ideas were able to really flourish. And I think that may be paired with the fact I teach, and I maybe had mentioned I'd choreographed something else, sort of put me in line from a certain senior figure's sort of point of view to be capable.
Yeah.
And I think that's so cool because I'm in another point in my career where it takes people taking a chance on me. Like when you're that young dancer, they've got to take a chance on you. And I feel like, as I'm wiser now in experience as a performer, I think I feel ever more grateful that someone's prepared to take a chance on me. And how cool that is. And as you say, it's not something you can push. You've got to, I don't know, it's a bit more holistic, isn't it? It's got to kind of, you've got to have that creative base, that certain skill sets have to align for you to be in that position. But so far, so good.
Yeah.
And I would really like to see where that goes for me. And it's not the sole focus because I'm still performing.
Yeah.
But I'm very excited about that branch. And I did start my own class at Pineapple last year, which I have temporarily stopped because of my own different dance contracts. I couldn't commit to it. I started a contemporary ballet class on a Friday and I loved it. Thank you to everyone that came because it was brilliant, fun. And it did exactly what I wanted, which was I got to try, the end of my class, I try my own choreography. And then when I had a commission come through, I was actually able to hire 2 dancers that directly I'd met through my class.
Nice.
And they'd been coming and I could see how my work looked on them. So, that was exactly what I dreamt for. So it was absolutely perfect. And even the other day, a friend of mine, Holly Saw, posted a video of her dancing a bit of my work from that class last year. And it's such a privilege, as a choreographer, that someone really likes your work. They feel good about it. They want to share it. And it's just a whole other side of the career that I feel so nourished by.
Yeah. I feel like your background in teaching really sets you up. We all know rehearsal periods are usually limited and you need to be able to communicate your material in a efficient way sort of thing.
Yes.
And I think teaching really helps with that, doesn't it?
Definitely, because you've already had that experience of managing people, because it's also managing human beings, creative individuals with all their stuff going on and, oh my God, injuries and being responsible. That's so scary. And actually, I can't imagine starting out as a choreographer having never taught before, because for me, that's such a, as you say, that's been part of setting me up for it. Because I have that skill set to fall back on when I'm faced, and if I'm faced with a challenge.
Because it's one side of choreography to be creative and to come up with, material, but then it's the other side is delivering it and making it look good on people. Yeah, because it's not you that's gonna dance it usually.
Yeah, but it's that funny feeling though, isn't there, when you're choreographing, when you say that's not gonna dance it usually, exactly, but for the first time, I'm having sometimes those experiences of, well, it just feels like this. The challenge of really actually trying to relay your feeling of a movement to another human being. That's been quite an interesting part of choreographing for me. Like when I'm reading something from a book or I'm just teaching them a move, that's different. But like there's a whole other language I'm trying to create in how to help you understand what I really want from an intention of a movement. And that's been a really interesting part of the process. And I've very much felt I've had to reference some excellent choreographers I've had experience working with, and I've drawn on their skills as I've experienced them and tried to utilize that for myself.
I guess when you're teaching ballet, everything has kind of a name. Every step has a name, and people know how to do it. And when it's more sort of contemporary or neoclassical or whatever, you need to have a language. I mean,
Definitely.
I studied at Laban, so we had the
Laban notation.
Yeah, Laban notation to teach us that language and to
Do you use it?
describe, dynamic, and it does help sometimes.
Amazing tool actually. Yeah, I think I have I do some of those really typical contemporary things. So I do the so it's like ooh.
Oh yeah, noises.
Za. And then kaka. Can you just kaka? Do you know what I mean?
100%. I mean, the sound effects are everything.
Yeah, sound effects 100%. So, but like if it's contemporary ballet, it'll be like Anna Shasa Padabore, Anna ooh, ja. And I think that's this like weird multi-modular language sound thing I'm doing is definitely a big part of how I work.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yes. Yeah.
And what is your choreographic process like? Like, how do you start with the music?
Music. The music. Always. Definitely. The music, the vision, narrative. I don't always need narrative. I don't think I create always narratively, but music for me and intention. Music and intention.
In the operas, did you work collaboratively with the director, or was it just kind of your section? Did you have dancers, or did you work with the singers as well?
So I'm trying to think. The recent opera I co-choreographed. So I actually worked with a choreographer, Johnny Vieco, who comes from a different background of dancing. We met in a contemporary project we were doing together, an advert actually. And then his background's contemporary and hip hop. My background's contemporary and ballet. So that was really interesting, collaborating on our styles. So we had that middle ground that we understood, but then we had definitely our own nuance, which was really cool. And honestly, that was a gorgeous like collaboration. That was, I want to say, easy from start to finish because we just had such an open approach with one another. The whole project wasn't easy, but our communication was like really easy, which was amazing. And I think you don't always get that. So I feel very grateful for that experience. And also that time, I suppose we were working relatively collaboratively with the director on what their vision was, but we were given a lot of scope. But I've had another experience working with an opera where the vision was quite set and it was quite clear. I felt quite curtailed in my, like, this is what you're doing. Your brief, my brief was quite set. You're not often just given the space to like have so much creative control.
Especially in something like opera where the story is just set and you have this scene where we have dancers.
So as much scope as I can get, I'll take it. Directing it, creating it. I mean, I think I've always been sort of fascinated in the whole spectacle. I wrote my dissertation, I remember, on Diaghilev. I don't know if you know much about Diaghilev, who's sort of the director of the Ballet Russe and sort of founded the first touring company responsible for so much, bringing so much art and culture through Europe. And I love this story of him having Chanel create the costumes and Picasso the backspread and Balanchine for choreographing the dancers. I mean, imagine. And I'm just realizing that I'm not comparing myself to Diaghilev here, everybody. I just want to just instantly say that because
Alice, the next Diaghilev.
So pretentious, although I loved you just said that. But that is like...
It is a collaboration between all the different arts.
Kind of pulling in all the different ropes, pulling in all your freelance connections and going, I've got exactly the right person for that because that person has that energy and has spoken about their interests. And that's so exciting. God, I love it. I love being given the space to suggest.
Yes.
Again, safe spaces, those spaces that most give you opportunity to cultivate. Whereas other times, as we say, it's very descript what you're doing. And you can still have some freedom in that, but the more you can collaborate, the better, I think.
What is next for you? Do you have something in the pipeline? Or you're a bit settled in London for a while?
I am just taking a minute in London. Dear God, just need a minute because it was a very busy travelling upheaval of a time. And so I am currently working with the London Children's Ballet, a company I adore.
Love that.
They are excellent. And I am working with them in several parts of their operations, but particularly their outreach. So I'm about to go and deliver, I think, something like 50 workshops. Yes, 50.
Wow.
In different schools across London to kids in different primary schools all over London that largely haven't been exposed to ballet or even dance on the level we're going to deliver. In terms of showing them all about what ballet is about and our productions and giving them a workshop. And then these kids get invited to come and watch our more pre-professional children who perform at Sadler's Wells Peacock Theatre in the Secret Garden. And it's a lovely thing. I really enjoy it. And I, within that, have peppered the odd, I have a music video coming up.
As a performer?
I have quite a few events. Next year's already looking busy with some travel, dancing again with the Prague Festival Ballet and Brecon Festival Ballet, working again in Iceland. That's a really rewarding thing, isn't it? When you feel like, God, how nice, like how lucky to be wanted back.
Definitely.
Must have done something right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the validation you need.
Exactly.
Well, they're very lucky to have you.
Thank you.
And
very
we were
much.
very lucky to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you
It's
so
been my
much
pleasure.
for coming on.
I love that you're doing this, Karina. You're so fab.
Well, thank you very much.
I haven't spoken about how great you are, but you're amazing.
Thanks.
Karina's
well,
great.
That's not what it's about.
No, but you are, and it doesn't surprise me that you're doing this because you have such a plethora of contacts, don't you, at your disposal. So this is just lovely, and we always have such great chats about all areas of the industry, and you're such a connective person. So this is really awesome. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Daryl.
Thanks, Daryl. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. We have many more incredible guests and conversations coming up, so please subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out. You can find us on all social media platforms under Dance Chat UK. That's the easiest way to get in touch, and we love to hear from you. Also, if you could spread the word and tell your friends about us, we would love to welcome them into our little community. Enjoy your dancing, and I'll see you next time.